In Japan, the path to a successful life is narrow and clearly defined. From childhood, students are taught that their future depends on excelling in school, passing tough exams, and landing a stable job. This system values conformity and achievement, building a productive society, but at a cost. The pressure to succeed is immense, leaving little room for mistakes or individuality. For many, the constant demand to perform is overwhelming. Those who struggle feel deep shame, believing they are flawed or inadequate. Instead of seeing setbacks as learning opportunities, they see them as permanent marks of failure. This shame leads to withdrawal from friends, family, and school, beginning a silent retreat from the world. We'll explore how Japan's educational system, with its focus on competition and conformity, can push vulnerable students to the margins. By understanding this journey into isolation, we can see why returning is so difficult, and what must change to prevent more young people from being lost. The story of hikikomori begins here, with the quiet crisis of pressure and shame. In Japan, academic pressure starts early, sometimes before a child can even write their name. Even elementary students are swept into a race of endless exams, each one shaping their future. Parents enroll children in juku, or cram schools, where evenings and weekends are spent memorizing facts and drilling for tests. Free time vanishes, replaced by a relentless schedule. Teachers and students alike are judged by test results, making the stakes feel impossibly high. The system sorts children into winners and losers at a young age, and the fear of falling behind is ever present. Hobbies and play are sacrificed for study, and a child's worth becomes tied to their scores. The joy of learning is lost, replaced by anxiety and exhaustion. This narrow definition of success teaches conformity and discourages risk-taking. Children are trained to be test takers, but not to handle life's challenges. The seeds of isolation are planted early, as pressure overshadows childhood. In Japan, failure is not a lesson. It's a source of deep shame. Students are expected to present a perfect image, and any misstep feels like a personal and family disgrace. When a student falls behind, it's seen as a character flaw, not a call for help. Disappointment from teachers and parents weighs heavily, and peers may distance themselves. Shame becomes a corrosive force, making students want to disappear. Negative self-talk, "I'm not good enough," takes over, eroding self-esteem. The fear of more shame leads to avoidance. Students stop raising their hands, avoid clubs, and shrink from new experiences. This defense mechanism only makes their world smaller. Instead of learning to cope, they learn to hide. The pattern of avoidance born from shame is the first step towards social withdrawal. In a culture where failure is feared, even a small setback can start a spiral into isolation. The stigma of not fitting in becomes a barrier to seeking help. The journey toward hikikomori often begins with a single silent retreat. Isolation doesn't happen overnight. It starts with small steps away from school. Anxiety grows, showing up as stomach aches or headaches, making each school day feel unbearable. Students begin arriving late, then skipping classes, and eventually missing entire days, what's known as futoko. They may wander parks or hide in libraries, desperate for relief from relentless pressure. As absences pile up, returning to school feels impossible. Fear of judgment and the mountain of missed work make the idea of going back overwhelming. Home becomes a refuge, and soon, even leaving their room feels daunting. They avoid visitors, emerge only at night, and build emotional walls. Their bedroom becomes a fortress against a world that feels hostile. What began as truancy turns into total seclusion. The transition from skipping school to shutting out society is subtle but dangerous. Each day inside makes the outside world seem more unreachable. The path to hikikomori is paved with avoidance, fear, and a desperate need for safety. The longer the retreat, the harder it is to return. Once confined at home, time stands still for the withdrawn student. Days and nights blur, routines vanish. They may sleep all day, stay up all night, and lose touch with family. The internet and video games become their only companions, offering escape, but not connection. Social skills fade, and even simple conversation becomes anxiety-inducing. Watching peers move on, graduating, working, deepens their sense of failure. The gap between their stagnant life and the outside world grows into a chasm. Returning to school or society feels impossible. Shame hardens into a belief of worthlessness. Family efforts to help often backfire, reinforcing the sense of being a burden. The cycle of isolation feeds on itself. The longer they withdraw, the harder it is to re-engage. They are trapped in a timeless, lonely present, unable to move forward. When isolation lasts 6 months or more, it's called hikikomori, literally pulling inward. Hikikomori is not laziness or rebellion. It's a desperate response to overwhelming pressure. These individuals once tried to succeed, but the weight of shame and failure became too much. Their withdrawal is a form of self-preservation, not defiance. Life shrinks to a single room, routines disconnected from the outside world. Online interactions offer distraction, but not real connection. Most hikikomori are young men, withdrawing just as they're expected to transition to adulthood. Hikikomori is a silent protest against a system that demands perfection and punishes imperfection. They are not choosing isolation. They feel pushed into it by a society that offers little support for those who falter. Behind every closed door is a person overwhelmed by a world they can no longer face. For hikikomori, returning to society feels impossible. Japan's system values uninterrupted progress. Gaps in education or work are seen as failures. There's no clear path for those who've withdrawn. Employers and schools rarely offer second chances. The practical barriers are huge, but the psychological ones are even greater. Years of isolation destroy confidence and reinforce feelings of worthlessness. Even small steps, like making a phone call, can trigger panic. Friends have moved on, deepening the sense of being left behind. The social disconnect makes reconnecting feel impossible. Re-entry isn't just about finding a job. It's about finding a place to belong. For many, the outside world feels like a wall they can't climb. The longer the isolation, the more solid that wall becomes. Without support, the cycle continues, and hope fades. Hikikomori is a slow descent, not a sudden fall, meaning there are chances to intervene. Early signs, school anxiety, physical complaints, skipping class, should be met with compassion, not punishment. Creating safe spaces for open conversation is crucial. Schools and families must shift from shaming failure to supporting growth. Teachers can help by focusing on effort and offering extra support. Parents should reassure children that love isn't tied to grades. For those already withdrawing, gradual re-engagement is key. Home tutors, alternative schools, or counseling can help. The goal is to build a gentle bridge back to the world, not force a return. Public awareness and support groups can reduce stigma and open doors to help. Early, compassionate intervention can break the cycle before isolation becomes a life sentence. Hikikomori is a symptom of a society that values achievement over well-being. Preventing this crisis requires redefining success. Life shouldn't be measured only by school or career prestige. There must be room for different talents, paths, and timelines. Schools should nurture curiosity and resilience, not just test scores. Teachers must become mentors, supporting students through setbacks. For those already isolated, hope means accessible, non-judgmental support, counseling, vocational training, and safe community spaces. Recovery is a marathon, requiring patience and empathy. The goal isn't to force conformity, but to help each person find their own path. Every individual has value, regardless of productivity or perfection. By embracing compassion and flexibility, Japan can heal the wounds of relentless pressure. With support and understanding, young people can find hope and a place in the sun once more.